My name is Councilor Viola. I'm the chair of this committee. With me on the committee is Councilor Campbell, Councilor Demers, Councilor Ferrulo, and Councilor Mercer-Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we waive the reading of the previous meeting's minutes and approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First and only other thing on our agenda is the order transferring $450,000 from unreserved fund balance account 01-356000 to downtown safety project account number 014-1058-589442 for the downtown Woburn traffic safety improvement project. With us tonight, we have Mayor Concanon. Like to come up.
Thank you. Also have City Engineer Corey, City Auditor Doherty here. If you have any questions, we touched on this the other night at the council meeting. Rich Benevento is
He's on his way.
On his
He
way.
just called me. He's at a traffic light on Main Street. Should be here momentarily.
the irony.
I thought the same thing.
Was the
Is that a good
stage?
segue?
That was good. Appreciate that. Trying to damp for time. We did touch on this. This is the project I think most of the council is familiar with outside here, the safety improvement project that would maybe corral some of the traffic out there. It would also enhance your access to the common, and hopefully there's some net parking improvements as well. When we spoke the other night, we were waiting to hear an update on the tip and our status on that. They had a meeting last Thursday and it was positive, no final decisions made yet. They were able to shift some more of the money around that is on the tip, and they felt like there might have only been one project in jeopardy at this point. I'll tell you that the city planning director, the new director, John Cashel, weighed in at the meeting, represented us very well, made our case, and the feedback we got was very positive. So we're optimistic, and as we said the other night, one of the major things we're trying to do is demonstrate to the MPO that we're serious about this, that we're committed to it. And one of the things, one of the ways we can do that is by providing this funding source to Rich Benevento and his company to bring us to 25% design, which we'll be able to do with this amount. Rich laid out a bit of a timeline the other night. I know there's more questions to come. But in the meantime, I do have Jay, who I'm sure can answer a couple, and Charlie, if you have any questions on the funding to date and any of the accounting measures.
Just to build upon what the mayor just said, this is a huge downtown safety project. We have oodles of accidents here, personal injury, and it is one of the higher intersections in the state in terms of traffic problems. Here's our consultant now. We see that as the primary objective, and to move the ball forward. How are you, Richie?
I don't even want to sit at the head of the table.
Did you get stuck in a traffic light?
You gotta do something with the traffic out there.
That's your job.
Yeah, that's right.
At any rate, early on, what we have to do is we have to start vetting out some of the questions. We had a bike path meeting the other night, and it's very preliminary. We offered it out there, and we got tons of input. That's what we are looking to get early, find out, what are people looking for, what are they not looking for, what are the things that are going to be potential problems and little hurdles and impediments that we have to get by. With that, I would turn it over to Rich Benevento, our consultant from Ty and Bond, who has been working on this at least through the preliminary phases when we did functional design report, initial studies, and investigations. And
Yeah,
with that,
okay, thanks, Jay.
Rich.
Well, and we had a little bit of a discussion at the council meeting. I made 10 of these, but I prepared sort of, because I think, Council, you asked for just some milestones. What are we looking at in terms of some of these things? And
Make a
so,
motion to accept that. What's the date on
Second.
that, Rich?
All in
I
favor?
didn't put a date on it.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, just
I'll pass.
more informational than anything else, something we can talk about anyhow.
Let's pass pass them around.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I didn't know.
There should be enough.
Grab one of those.
We can share it too.
So,
I think you said this back.
as we talked about at the council meeting, the original agreement, which I brought a copy of with me, included it included a Phase 1A and Phase 1B, which was the preliminary design. We didn't give the city the full preliminary design, because at the time, whether it was a funding issue or whatever it was, so it was really like about a third of what we needed to do. So we did the topographic survey, we did the functional design report, we did some data collection. We had a couple of meetings, I think, with the council at the time. There went,
Maybe two.
Yeah, two. We were just kind of getting things rolled off. We didn't use the entire Phase 1A budget. We still have some budget of that left, which would be further refining the concepts, some additional community meetings, and all that sort of thing. The real meat of the preliminary design was in Phase 1B, which we're really getting into the engineering and working through some of the concept plans, having more robust community meetings, where we're actually getting together with the businesses and residents and interested parties within Woburn Center to start talking about the project. And I can tell you, because we're involved with the same kind of a project on Washington Street in Brookline Village, Washington Square, all of the same stuff. Businesses want to know, what are you doing with the parking? And it's not just parking. What about my loading zone? What are you going to do with that? How am I going to get deliveries? So it's those kinds of things that we need to work out with the local businesses. Residents want to know, well, geez, is it going to be inconvenience during construction? Well, yeah, but we need to explain all of that as we're going through this process. This is going to be a major project for the city. We're meeting tomorrow with the Peabody Chamber of Commerce, because the Central Street project in Peabody is about to start. That's a $25 million project. If you ever been in Peabody, goes between Wilson Square and Peabody Square, it's gonna be a lot of work going on, and it's gonna be some inconvenience. And I always say, if I was to tell you that there'll be no inconvenience, I'd be lying to you. But we have to go through this process with the businesses and residents so they know what to expect when this happens, because when it's done, it's gonna be a landmark project for the city. So anyhow, since we started this Phase 1A, I'm gonna call it Phase 1A preliminary design, Mass DOT has now imposed additional things that we have to do. You heard me talk about the ICE analysis, right? The intersection control evaluation analysis. That has to be done. Because the project is over $10 million, you have to do a time duration schedule now. So Mass DOT wants to see how that works. So all of this preliminary stuff, there's a lot more emphasis on right-of-way at the preliminary design phase. So we have to do preliminary right-of-way plans. So by the time we get to the design public hearing, we're able to articulate to the public, these are the impacts that right-of-way is gonna have on your property. And it's not generally, in a dense urban setting like this, we're not gonna be taking property, but it's gonna be construction easements. And I tried, when I was explaining the other night, the contractor has to nail the form in to build a sidewalk. If he has to step on someone's property, we need an easement. It's that deep, because we're using federal funds, and it's all part of the Real Property Act that federal funds comes with. So if you look at the handout that I gave you, so survey, base plan prep, project initiation, funding assistance. We've been at this with the funding part of this for quite some time. This starts out with a submission to Mass DOT, to the Project Review Committee. It's made up of all the district highway directors, the chief engineer, and others. And they determine if the project is viable for funding. Is it eligible for funding? The second part of that, because it's a two-step process, the second step in that process is the MPO. Is the MPO gonna fund it? Because Mass DOT can say, yes, it's a great project, but the MPO are the ones that decide whether it's gonna be funded. We were extremely successful, because generally they don't fund projects until we get to the design public hearing. As I mentioned the other night, this project got programmed on the tip. And so that was a huge benefit and for the city. So during this process, from when it was first approved by PRC, which I believe was back in 2018, maybe.
Thank you.
We've been attending the MPO meetings and are, really articulating the benefits of the project, and they score all the projects. I challenged the scores. They gave us a higher score after we challenged the scores. So we've been pushing this right along. There was data collection early on, traffic, for part of the traffic analysis, traffic counts, turning movement counts, all of that goes with this. But you'll notice if you look at the schedule, we're doing that again because it requires, the ICE analysis requires additional data collection. Not only that, but some of the counts may have been pre-COVID, during COVID, so they want to make sure all those traffic counts are up to date.
Richie,
Yeah.
just to interject, a lot of people are not going to be familiar with intersection congestion evaluation. Could you explain the difference between traffic light and a roundabout so people don't think we're crazy?
Yes, so the ICE analysis, the intersection control evaluation, is to, generally, if we think that an intersection requires some intervention like a traffic signal, it's required that we also look at other options for improvement, and the other option generally is a roundabout. So you have to look at how does a roundabout work versus how does a traffic signal work? What is the return on investment of those two options? What does it do in terms of reducing accidents? What's the accident score? Are we gonna, if you do a roundabout, it's one less accident per year than if you use a traffic signal. Well, all of those things, they're checking boxes when they're looking at this stuff. But when you get right down to it, we're not gonna knock 4 buildings down to put a roundabout in. So in that case, they grant a waiver, or they finally come to the realization that, yes, a roundabout may work maybe someplace in the middle part of the state, but in downtown Woburn, it's not going to work. After we go through an evaluation, we make that determination. So that's what, but we have to go through all this. Yeah, it's a requirement. And quite honestly, it's a laborious process. Our engineers go back and forth with DOT. But it's one of those things. It's a nature of the beast. So we have to do it, and we're doing it a lot. And DOT is actually coming to the realization themselves internally that this evaluation really isn't necessary for every project. Like they're looking at corridor projects or something like Woburn Center. I mean, where are you going to put a roundabout? We're going to put one at Salem Street?
Aren't we taking one out, sort of?
Well, we're making it better. We're making it better. So anyway, if you look at the data collection, and no, not necessarily in that order, but you see public workshops. And I put some public workshop entries onto this schedule, but we need to determine when that's going to be. I have one right at the beginning of May, and that's sort of the kickoff. We're gonna get together with the businesses, residents. Hey, here's the project. You may have heard about it. These are some of the concepts we're thinking about. All of that sort of thing, just to introduce them to the project. I'm always wary of showing them concepts that they may, oh geez, they're jamming it down my throat. Or if you come with stuff that you just have something that's too light, they came unprepared. So this is really, and I think I mentioned this at the meeting, we're gonna roll out some existing conditions plans. We're gonna put sticky tabs all over the place, write something down. How would you like to see the project? Things are important to you. In Lynn, we had a board with, I think, 8 key components of the project, and we gave people little stickies. They got 3 each. And we wanted them to put, out of those 8 things, what was most important to them. It was compelling to see that what some might have thought wasn't that important, you'd see all the dots on that particular box. Again, it's just helping them feel engaged, get engaged in the project, and then it helps the designers and the engineers tailor the project to what the community wants. And as I mentioned at the meeting, there's some things that we have a lot of latitude with, and then there's other things that if you're using federal dollars and state dollars, you gotta do it this way. And then there's those areas in the middle, those gray areas, those are the areas that we negotiate and we talk about back and forth with DOT. Because at the end of the day, the city has to live with the project when it's done, So again, I think what we'd need to do is sort of set a schedule. Let's lay a schedule out as to when these community meetings would happen. I think that first one, maybe right around the first part of May perhaps, would be, again, an introduction to the project. This is the project that's coming, we're all excited about it, we want to get your input, what's important to you, that sort of thing. Then, maybe sometime around August, maybe the end of August, first part of September, we start introducing some of the conceptual plans. This is some of the things that the analysis is telling us, this is what the engineers are looking at, these are the things that we're focusing on, and then, again, talking about things like, how would you like to see the square? What's the concept going to be for the commons, right? What's that gonna look like? What are the landscaping improvements? Are we gonna have to move the memorial over a little bit? Not taking it out, but are we gonna move it? And if we move it, can we enhance it? Can we make it even better? Can we make it easier to get to? Instead of like when you're trying to cross any of the streets that are around the commons, right? So things like that. Again, not to the point where we know precisely what it's gonna be, but we want that input. This is kind of what we're thinking about at that point. Then you'll see the arrow. My philosophy with projects like this is I like to have a lot of public information meetings, public workshops, before we get to the Mass DOT design public hearing. Because I don't want people showing up at the design public hearing having never heard about the project. Some will have never heard about the project, even though we'll send out flyers and everything else. But we want people, when Mass DOT comes out to conduct their official design public hearing, we want people there in support of the project. We want this project. We want you guys to advance it for us as quick as we can. So, because us as the city, we want this. So, I think we would be looking at, once we have, whatever we have that we're gonna be submitting to Mass DOT as part of the preliminary design, we would have another workshop before that's submitted to DOT. So they're not seeing it for the first time when Mass DOT comes out. So again, we'll have to lay what that schedule is gonna be. We can lay that out. We can work with the engineering department and planning and the mayor's office and obviously all of you to kind of figure out what that's gonna be. You'll see some other things down here, concept refinement and things like that. We've been doing that currently with some of the concepts. I will tell you that DOT is anxious to get submissions in and I didn't bring the schedule that we have to give them. As I mentioned, it would fit on the wall and everybody would fall asleep looking at it. But they're anxious to have that as well. You'll see there's a pre-25 scoping meeting. Once we finish with ICE, we then have, they call it the over-the-shoulder review. And Mass DOT is gonna look at what we have going for concepts, what we've sort of developed, and that's that 25% pre-scoping meeting. And once we get through that, it's really pedal to the metal. We can start getting the preliminary design done. The reason that this pre-25 scoping meeting is important and the over-the-shoulder review is we don't want to be putting pen to paper and then submit something to them and they say, no, you guys are way off. You know, you need to start over. Because those are city dollars that are being spent to get this design done, and we want to be very efficient with those design dollars. Preliminary design, we're figuring the preliminary design submitted to DOT in November of this year. That's, someone say, well, geez, we're in March, it's going to take all the way to November. That's not a long time. That's not a long time, and we'll be meeting with the public as well during that period. Mass DOT, because this is on the out year of the tip, it gets 90 days to review the preliminary design. If this was programmed in the FY25 tip, they got 30 days. They got to get through the design really quickly. But because it's out, they get 90 days to review the preliminary design. And then beyond that, once we get comments back from Mass DOT, we then have to address all of their comments, including right-of-way comments, and then we would be able to schedule the design public hearing. And right now, we're thinking that would be about a year from now, in March of '25, the design public hearing. Once we get past the design public hearing, and you'll see in that yellow box on the bottom, submission dates, 75% design in October of that year. Again, Mass DOT has a review period, they get to review it. And then 100% design in early '26, and then PS&E, which is plans, specs, and estimates, that would be around mid '26. That gets us into having the project available for either the 27 tip right now, we can move that up. But that would get the project available for advertisement. PS&E, by the way, means plans, specs, and estimates. One other thing relative to the review process. When we submit a project like this, it's not going to one or two people at Mass DOT. It's going to Boston, to the headquarters, and it's reviewed by right-of-way, highway design, traffic, environmental, landscaping, utilities. A bunch of departments at MassDOT are looking at this thing. But it's not just in Boston. It then goes to District 4 in Arlington, and the district office has all of those same people, and they're all looking at it. It's gotten a lot better because they have this process called Bluebeam, so now everybody can put their comments in Bluebeam. But years ago, Boston would say make it red, and the district would say make it green. And we'd be going back and forth for months trying to get everybody on the same page. So that is a little bit better. That advances the process a little bit better than it had been in the past. Amendment number 1, which is what this was, I brought copies of it. But essentially, what this did was it brought everything up to that phase 1B I talked about, the detailed preliminary design part of the project, including intersection control evaluation, including additional public outreach, additional concept design alternatives that we're gonna have to go through. This is a pretty unique project, given you have the commons right in the middle of this. That needs to be a focal point. I mean, we have to deal with the traffic, and we have to deal with, the city has an adopted complete streets policy, so we have to deal with all modes of transportation, transit, bikes, cars, and pedestrians. But the commons are gonna be a big focal point. The company that acquired WorldTech, we have a very robust landscape architecture group. I don't know if any of you have heard of the company Halverson. They were out of Boston. Ty and Bond acquired Halverson about 3 years ago. So they have a very, very good group of landscape architects that they'll love to get their teeth into this thing, I can tell you right now. So that's sort of in a nutshell where we are. The amendment, obviously, we need to get that together and get that executed so that we can get everybody going. As I said, there is some budget dollars that are left in the phase 1A, but certainly not what we need to get this thing to the finish line in terms of design public hearing. Now, one other thing I will mention, some consultants would give you, oh, here's the whole contract right up through final design. We do not do that. I do not do that. Because the project can morph. We can maybe the project limits expand a little bit, maybe they diminish a little bit, maybe DOT comes out with something else, and I wouldn't want to get to get through the preliminary design, and now we're all locked into something, and the project has changed a little bit. That's not fair to you. It's not, obviously, we need to be mindful of that as we're going through the process. Generally, projects like this are about 11 to 12% of the construction value. Now, I have the notes because I wrote all this stuff down. But if this is a $20 million project, 11% of 20 million is about a $2 million total design fee, right? That's generally the standard in the industry. Supplemental basic engineering services are around 8 to 10%, but when you add in all the supplemental services that are required by a TIP project in Mass DOT, like functional design report, like right-of-way, like all these other things that we have to deal with, it'll bring the project value up to, it can bring it up to 15%. Generally, we're right around 10, 11%. I think the preliminary design fee for this is a little over 5% of the construction value. Is that hard and fast? I use it as a barometer because I want to make sure that I'm in the ballpark of where we should be in terms of developing the fee. I'm not going to pass this on, but I brought it just to give you an idea. There's a lot to the fee. All of the submissions that Mass DOT requires And as I said, it's not just one set of plans, it's not just construction drawings, it's alignment and grading, it's traffic, it's signs, it's other details that go with the design submission. It's very, very intensive process. So, all right, I've been rambling. You must have questions.
Anybody have any questions?
First,
Councilor Mersereau.
thank you for coming down, and thank you for the additional information. For the counselors that weren't here, some of the comments you were talking about, our beautiful common, and we had some of those discussions a few years back, and there were concerns then. There'll be concerns again when we first started this process. So I'm glad to hear we're back on track. I'm glad that that we're gonna try to move forward again. And I'm glad that you're mindful that you've seen us be in situations where we've done these designs and had to redo them for all kinds of reasons.
Yep.
So I'm very excited that we're gonna move forward. And I will be looking to Mayor Concanon and to you and to Jay to keep us up to date on when some of these milestones are going to happen. Because we don't want MassDOT saying to us again, hey, where's your 25% design plans, right? So I'm excited about moving forward. My only concern is that we get slowed down. I have no doubt that you and your organization will keep this moving, but we need to keep it moving. I'm sure the mayor would agree. I mean, we have to continue to make it a priority. Because if we don't make it a priority for you, it's not going to stay a priority.
That's right.
So, thank you.
And as I said, it's getting the public engaged and excited about it as well. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity for
Right,
the
we
city.
started that process.
Yeah.
There were some rumblings,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. So it's time to move forward. And there was a whole bunch of other things that happened in between, like COVID. I'm glad we're gonna get
that's a
moving
pretty
and
big
get
thing.
people's input. And the last thing I would say is the sooner that you know about when the public hearings are gonna be, the better, so we can all plan and help spread the word. And I know Samantha upstairs will help spread the word as well.
Well, I mean, I'll work with Jay and
Yeah.
the mayor's office as well, and we'll get these scheduled, because, and, you know, one of the other things that we've done inland, in Brookline, is that there was a project website.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we will take all the information that has been developed to date. We will put that on our webpage with all the other projects that we have. We maintain a full schedule of things on there, and we look at it periodically so it doesn't look stale. There's nothing worse than a project that you haven't updated in 3 years, and it's like, well, what have they been doing?
Right.
So,
And one other thing is having like an email address for the project, so if people have questions, even as they go on, not necessarily because we had a meeting last night and someone has a question, but, you know, we're having these questions right now in Brookline about parking. Brookline is putting a shared use path, and they're putting all this stuff. And again, with all of these projects, we're trying to fit 10 pounds in a 1 pound bag. We got this much right of way, but we want to put all of this stuff within that right of way. And so it has to be a balance. And so people have questions about that, and people are worried. I mean, you live right here, or your business is right here. Hey, you know, I love the project, but how's this going to affect me? Those are real concerns, and we have to be sensitive to that. I always say, and I may have said it the other night, no one is going to, at a public meeting, I'll say, no one is going to walk out of here and say, I got everything I wanted. But if I can walk out and say, I didn't get everything I wanted, but it's a good project, I can support the project, that's where we want to be. That's where we want to be, so. And I'll push till you say, hey, quit pushing me, you know.
Any other members on the finance committee have any questions? Can I have a motion to allow other members to speak?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor DeMambro?
I have a question. And I appreciate all this information. This is all great stuff. I'm looking forward to it, very excited, can't wait. How do you channel it? Like, how does your company channel? Do you guys sit there and say, okay, we're gonna give you 3 concepts, 3 designs. And then we work off of one of those three. And then once you pick the one out of the three, we'll say, then we start molding it and creating what we need or what's acceptable with Mass DOT. It's just, I'm just curious how something so big and so massive can be channeled down, because there's 1,000 variables here, if not 1,000,000. So that's why I'm just so curious how that works, so that you can almost narrow it down and say, okay, we're gonna go in this direction.
So we start off with what we know MassDOT's gonna require. And we've been doing this long enough, we know what they want. Excuse me. We're gonna have some tug of war relative to bicycle accommodation. I can tell you that right now, right? That's gonna happen. So it's a question of first determining what they want, then it's a city project. The city's designing it. So, okay, this is what MassDOT wants, this is what the city wants. Where's that balance, right? Then once we get to that balance, now we're showing it to the public. And the public is saying, I can't live with that, right? We're going through this right now in Brookline, right? We can't live with that. So where can we make tweaks, right? This is not an overnight process. This is a process of just, constant grinding. We'll take a rusty steel rod and turn it into a fine shine needle, right? So it's
As
that.
long as there's progress, though,
As
and
long as there's
forward
progress.
motion,
Right.
forward
So you have to
progress.
keep driving it. And sometimes you have to, I had this discussion with the commissioner in Brookline, Aaron Shute. At some point, the city has to make a decision, right? Because it could be this or it could be this. They're both good, but we're gonna get to a point where we gotta make a decision on this, right? And someone may not be as thrilled about it as they might have been, right? It's that constant trying to find that balance, to your question. We're just constantly trying to find the balance. Knowing that we know what DOT is gonna be looking for, and we know what the city is looking for, and then we try to get to the point where the businesses and residents can accept it.
And there's a financial component to this as well, where
Right, so,
they're not gonna spend $1 billion on our intersection, so they're like,
no, but I mean, this project is currently programmed at $17.38 million, right? By the time this goes to construction, out to bid, will that number go up? Likely.
most likely.
Now, the MPO is conscious and concerned about project budgets going up. Matter of fact, that was the whole point of that meeting. The projects are not ready, and because they're taking longer, the cost of the project is going up. Then we had supply chain issues, workforce shortage. We were adding 30% contingency on projects, right? They understand that. What they get concerned about is scope creep. Like, instead of going to, where we're going, as far as we're going on Montvale, we're going all the way to 128. No, you can't do that stuff. So, the cost of the project is, at the end of the day, is gonna be the cost of the project. If it's a good project and it's advancing, and we're getting through all the design submissions, and we're meeting all of the requirements that we need to meet, the project will be built. If by the time this gets advertised in 2026 or 2027, it's now, instead of 17 million, it's 24 million, that's what it will be. And they recognize that. I mean, it's just the nature of this process. I actually testified when they were getting ready to form the subcommittee at the MPO to talk about these things. They were gonna actually add me to the committee, but you have to be a voting member of the MPO to be on the committee. But I provided testimony that, because the Federal Highway Administration allows a 4% inflation on projects. I'm like, 4%? You can't get out of the barn for 4%, right? These projects are increasing 20, 30%. So that's why they're in a little bit of the predicament they're in right now, in terms of funding the projects, because some projects are, because they're taking a while, the cost of the project go up. In my over 40 years doing this, I've never seen them get a project all designed and then put it in the shelf and not build it. That's just not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. They're not gonna have a city or town go through all this process, spend all this money to get it designed, and then not build it. It'll get built.
And you're also gonna do not only above-ground construction, but underground construction as well, with utilities and piping and drainage and all that as well.
So one of the groups that reviews this project is the utilities engineer, Guy Resendez, our good friend Guy.
Guy?
And so,
Been
as
raised
part of the
this.
preliminary design, when the 25% design goes in, it is sent to every utility provider in that street. And essentially, they say, we have this project coming, if you're thinking about upgrades, you need to be thinking about it now, because there'll be a 5-year moratorium on touching that street. So, after the job's all done, Verizon came in and said, oh, we want to upgrade our line? Sorry. If they need to move utilities, like utility poles or any of that kind of stuff, Mass DOT provides a 50% reimbursement to them if they meet it within the schedule. So if they say, okay, National Grid, you gotta move some stuff, you have until August 15th to move your stuff. And if you move it by August 15th, the $1 million it's gonna cost to move your stuff, we'll give you half of that back. If it's August 16th, they don't get anything. So there's an incentive for them to, because utilities, how many times have we seen a project, the job's all done, and then there's a pole there with barrels around it out in the middle of the street,
All over Woburn.
right? I mean,
I'll say it.
No comment.
If I could interject, Rich, the nice thing is that Mass DOT does a great job with utility coordination. We had, I think, 16 utility coordination meetings on the bridge. We went through 5 on Bedford Road, Cambridge Road traffic signal, which is having their 25% design this week. One of the caveats, though, is that if water and sewer are non-participating elements, if we want those improved, the city has to pay for them, unless they have to move something because of drainage, or if they change the grades and you change the cover. There's a number of little things that we can get participating on, and we've generally been pretty successful about that in the past. But you have to meet certain thresholds, otherwise that is a cost to the city.
and this non-participating work, for example, the city of Peabody had a 100-year-old water main, so they decided to, as part of the Mass DOT project, replace their water main. Now, what's the benefit of that? They don't have to rebuild the street when they're done. Road's gonna be opened up, they're just paying for the pipe. They're putting the pipe in. Non-participating work, the city would have to establish a force account so that the water main replacement would be included as part of the project, but that comes from city funds. But it's a huge benefit for the city of Peabody, because they're gonna put this water main in for a lot less than it would have cost them to just do it themselves. And it's an opportunity, because the other thing is, you don't wanna do this project, and then you have a water main break because the thing's 150 years old and the water main broke.
One of the fortunate things is our major water mains through the downtown have all been cleaned and lined and inspected, so they're good for
Yeah.
another 50 years. The sewer, we've gone through with our infiltration inflow program and done rehab down the middle of the street, so our utilities are well up to
Yeah.
snuff.
Some communities have opted for decorative lighting as part of the project, but that's generally non-participating. State won't pay for, like, antique fixtures and that kind of stuff.
Cosmetics.
So those are some of the things that are generally non-participating. But again, it's an opportunity to get these things as part of the project.
I thank you.
Councilor Demers?
Yeah, just an anecdotal story about, you had mentioned the bike issue. And I know Engineer Corey could echo this sentiment when I worked for Representative Jim Dwyer. And he and Senator Donnelly literally had to go out on Montville Ave with the bikes engineer for Mass DOT and argue against putting bike lanes on the Montville Ave widening project, especially with the tri-community bikeway 100 feet away. So I think it's just an important remembrance that we definitely need to be bringing in the legislative delegation to partner with us on this, so that if it were to come to that, or we needed some added enforcement up at the MPO, that they'd be there.
To that point, I should tell you that Rich Hegarty, Michelle Sicolo, and Cindy Friedman all weighed in this past week to the MPO in support of this project, and we appreciate that very much. I'm sure they'll be there throughout the process.
Yeah, excellent. I think and the bike folks come out of the, remember I mentioned all those people in Boston review, well, there's also a complete streets engineer. And, there's a new complete streets engineer, and I think they've been a little bit more sensitive, to some of these things.
I think it was like lacking in common sense, like it
Yeah.
came off as somebody from Boston just saying, we need bike paths, whereas if they came out and looked at the project, they were like, that would be a disaster on that street.
Reno still doesn't talk to me because of the Montpelier project.
But it was a big point of contention, I remember.
Council Papalato?
Hi, I'm new to reviewing all this, so just basic question. Does this get us to the end of the year, 25% design? Is that what this is?
Yeah, I think if you look at the schedule, I think we had the 25% design phase submitted in November. Again, that's our
Yep.
estimate right
Yep,
now.
yep, yep.
And again, then Mass DOT has to review it. Hopefully, there's no red flags. We address their comments in earnest, and then we have the public hearing in March, which will go about a year from now.
So it sounds like you've done a lot of this work, right? I mean, you're naming off all these different cities that you've got your hooks in, so you know, it's not your first rodeo here, right?
No.
What should we be worried about that's gonna delay this? What are the big gotchas here? Are they there, or, you know?
I don't, to get us to 25% design, I think some of what we just talked about in terms of what the cross-section is gonna look like, so, you know, but that's sort of us in
Design
Jay meeting with DOT, potentially the delegation, the mayor's office and so forth, saying, hey, look, we need to work out something. But, I mean, even in Lynn, on Esser Street, Main Street in Ayer, right near the train station, same thing. I don't know if you've ever been to Ayer, but the sidewalk has a canopy over it. There's parking everywhere. There's the train station. It's a back and forth.
Yeah.
Do I see fatal,
Right.
fatal hurdles? No.
Right, you can't predict the future, but there's nothing on here, I mean, you built this pretty picture here, so you believe in it, right? At least
Yeah.
for now. There's nothing here that jumps out that says, this is something we need to watch a little closer to make sure we get to the 25%.
I think the biggest hurdle would be if the city leaders decided, hey, we don't wanna do this. To me, that's the biggest thing. We need the support of everybody behind it, and like I said, not everybody's gonna get everything they want, but, if you can support the project, that's the goal, right?
Okay.
That's where we
Thank you.
wanna be. I know that when we talked about this early on, it might have been one of the
He said
public.
thank you.
Huh?
He said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I remember we were talking about the. Did I miss something?
Yeah,
I did.
That's okay.
next question.
I remember early on, there was a lot of discussion about the memorial on the Commons.
Yeah.
That was like sanctum that you don't even think about touching that. What are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
And then
And then it may need to be moved
Right.
a little bit.
Nothing's off the table, everything's,
Yeah, and here's the thing, it wouldn't be just like we're shoving it over a little bit, we're gonna make it a focal point, right? Landscaping and access to it, so people can actually go look at it if they want to. I've
without
seen
getting
it.
run over by a car.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it like this, oh yeah, there it is, right? So those were some of the things, but again, a lot of this has to do with presenting this to the public in a manner that they can understand, right? Trying to allay their fears, right? Because that's what, people are resistant to change, no one likes change. You just have to be sensitive to that.
This is gonna change a whole lot, but in the end, it's gonna be much better than where we are, for sure.
Mm.
Okay,
Because
thanks.
the option is, do nothing.
Right,
And so I've gone to one public hearing, who thinks we should do nothing, right? And no one put their hand up, right? So it's just, again, helping them get through the process. right?
okay, thanks.
What is the will of the committee?
I just want to make one more comment, briefly. So to your point, doing nothing is not an option. And we're about to approve, I think, close to $500,000 to move forward here. So I would assume that the leadership in our city and the leaders here, regardless of what kind of hurdles we run into, are gonna find a way to make this happen. and not go silent after we hear some of those concerns, but work through them. Otherwise, I don't see the need to move forward with the 450,000, but I assume everybody here believes that it's gonna be worth all of the collaboration that's gonna have to happen with the business community and everybody else.
Let's roll.
Okay, then I make a motion that we approve the order for the $450,000
Second.
transfer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
So
Thank you very
moved.
much.
Thank you.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
I had more stuff.
Motion carries.
That's why we, that's,
You can come back anytime, anytime.
Gordon has,
And, can I have a copy of the original, copies of the original?
That's the amendment.
Yep, and then the other, thank you.
And, hang on, 'cause
If other people want them, we can pass them out, I don't know how many.
this was a cover letter that went with the amendment that explained the process and the fee and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Right here.
we'll put those right in the middle.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Jake, for coming down.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jay. Thank God he gave me that candy.
I got a ticket. I need a ticket.
Was it
Yes.
Come on, I gotta get them. I think I took them.
Thank you again. That's good.
Geez, you know what, Mayor, I think I'm picking up your stuff.
I guess I don't have. There's a
Do you have anything else here that I grabbed?
I almost, this is mine.
That's why this.
All right, I'd like to call the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules to order. On the committee are Councilors Toro, Mercer Bruin, Ferrulo, DeMambro, and myself as chair. First order of business is the reading and approval of the meeting minutes from our previous meeting. Is there a motion to dispense and approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the only item on our agenda tonight is a communication in order amending the Woburn Municipal Code by adding section 2-12C, assistant to the mayor, chief of staff, and section 2-180 base salaries for the new position. I see we have the mayor in the crowd, Mayor Concanon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the committee and the members of the council here. I'm sitting on hold. So I come to you tonight with this request to add this position in the mayor's office, amending the municipal code, adding this new section, and also, of course, amending the base salary section of the code to reflect the position. I come here after much consideration of this issue. I don't come lightly. I understand that we're talking about adding a position. Something I've thought about for a while now. I actually had some of these thoughts when I was on the council and interacting with the mayor's office and understanding how, the moving parts and the number of responsibilities and a lot of the projects that are always in flux, and there's always the need for an extra set of hands to push the boulder up the hill. So it's been something on my mind for a while. I can tell you in my conversations with Mayor Galvin during the transition process, this came up, the notion of necessary staffing in the office to make sure that the needs were being met and that things weren't left fall by the wayside or just get trampled with the movement of new projects and new efforts. He basically concurred that something like this was necessary in the office. During my transition period, I also went to a couple of sessions of training. The Collins Center at UMass Boston did a new mayor's training. The MMA did another one where we had an opportunity to meet with newly elected mayors and a forum of seasoned mayors with tips and lessons learned and approaches to getting an office ready and finding ways to deal with all the various responsibilities that come with the office. And I can tell you that in every meeting we had, in every discussion with every mayor, new and old, proper staffing in the office was a highlight. Every single person I talked to had an assistant, chief of staff, whatever you may want to call it, this position. Many of them had several. They had teams. Some of them were bigger communities than ours, some of them were smaller than ours. And that got me thinking as well. And again, teaming back with Scott and discussing the structure in the office, I became more and more convinced that something like this was necessary. I didn't come right out of the gate requesting it because I kind of wanted to see how the first few months went and confirm in my own mind that this is a need. And I am here tonight to tell you, I believe it is. I'm certain. And this is a request that I believe will help me do my job much better, help me interact with this council and all the other moving parts within city government to make sure that things are done more efficiently, more effectively, and we get to the goal line on many of these things, including projects like the one we just talked about in finance, sooner and with not as many stops and starts and delays, and sometimes the ball just dropping or laying dormant for a while because there's too much going on. So I'll tell you what, you have the ordinance change in front of you. You see the job description, the idea, what this position would do. So I'm not going to read that to you and bore you, but I'll tell you what it's not. In my mind and in practice, this will not be a layer between me and you, or a layer between me and the school committee, or me and the department heads. This is someone who serves off to the side, assists me in doing what I need to do. They will serve as a liaison in certain circumstances, but they'll never be an obstacle or a layer between the priorities of this council and my office. I think we've demonstrated in the first few months now, at all the various meetings we've been at, that there's a genuine desire to work closely with the council. You've been in, many of you, I think almost every one of you have been in several of the meetings where your input is sought. So I don't want this, would not let this be viewed as a buffer or a layer between us. It will not be that, I assure you of that. I know that could be a concern. So again, in terms of the duties, the responsibilities, it's basically assisting me in doing my job better. And I think it will assist all of city government in being more efficient and more effective. And I'm asking for your support for this position. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. You and I have spoken about this, and I've expressed some of my concerns initially about this position.
I hope I've been able to address some of them.
You have addressed some of them. When I looked at the description of this particular title in other cities and towns that are like us in size, some bigger than us, they don't differentiate the way you just did. It truly is a buffer between the mayor and many of the department heads, and oftentimes, sometimes the public. That's a very important piece for me, and I think when I trust you, Mayor, I've known you a long time. If you say this is not going to be that, then I will take you on your word for it.
Appreciate that.
And I assume this person is not going to have authority to change policy
Nope.
or influence how we legislate and serve our constituency.
No.
If it's truly about keeping some of these projects moving, I totally support that 100%. In the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about what this could morph into, but I'll say it again, I trust you, Mayor. I don't think you would come down and ask for this and tell us it's not what you think, if that's truly your intention. So with that, I will support it 100%. And I don't know, I mean, perhaps at some point we should read that when we're on the council floor, so that the people at home know that this person absolutely has no interaction or contract negotiation power with any of the unions in our city. It's not, that's
that's not-
absolutely not the role,
Nor-
that's your role.
Nor would this position ever be acting mayor or deputy mayor or
That still
whoever
goes to the president of the city
Yes,
council.
and that's spelled out in the ordinance, so there's no
Yeah.
doubt, no concern. And to your point, after those training seminars, I did come back and talk to the HR director, Shauna Healy, who went through all of our surrounding communities and did a survey of sorts and determined that everyone does have one of these. Most of them have language clarifying that it's not a deputy mayor, but some of them may be so vague that it does cause some concern. We wanted to make sure that there was no doubt. That's why it's written the way it is. And just as an aside, it's still important, but she also did a survey of the various towns and cities and the salary for something like this. And basically the minimum, it's like 95 to 120. We came in right at 95, low end, just so everyone knows, there was a survey done, and it spelled out generally the similar language in here in terms of duties and responsibilities, and carved out and excluded anything at all that would be concerning or vague. And we added language being very specific about the duties and responsibilities that this person would have.
Okay. Have you had conversations with your department heads about this potential role? Just out of curiosity.
Several of them, yes.
Okay.
And I've assured them that there wouldn't be a buffer, there wouldn't be a gatekeeper. I've done this position in my former life, and I know how it works, I know how it could go south. I'm very mindful of that. So your comments, your concerns, our discussions, I listen.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Councilor Toro, then.
Mayor Concanon, thank you very much for coming before us with the request. I do support your request. Being a business owner, and running a business, which is similar to the city, having an assistant or a chief of staff, whatever you want to call the individual, I know for me is beneficial. It allows me to do my job more effectively. And I think, as you mentioned, speaking to the prior administration, I think it's known that the office ran pretty light, in that, adding these staff members, Samantha Stone, this chief of staff, has allowed your office to be more forward-facing and engage with the community and do things that maybe the prior administration would have wanted to do. So I support your request, and I feel like anything you've brought before us so far in the first few months have been great additions to the city between the appointments and the hiring of Samantha Stone. So you have my support on this one.
Thank you, Rob.
Councilor DeMelo.
Mr. Mayor, I support this, and the reason I support it, because it'll address issues and put us in a forward trajectory in progress. Progress is important. You know I'm big on that. You and I have had many, many discussions. And I've seen your office, I've been in your department head meetings, I see your monitors, I see all the paperwork, I see the piles are starting to stack up. I understand that, and I support also, and I thank you for being so actively involved in so many different areas and variables in the city, all at once, right out of the gate. So I do support this, again, to address many, many issues that we have on a daily basis, and to put us in a forward, progressive motion forward and for our residents and our city.
Thank
So
you.
I support that. Thank you.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow members?
So moved.
Vote
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Viola, then Councilor
Thank
Papalato.
you, Councilor Demers. Mike, I think this is a good idea bringing this forward. I know you're stretching yourself thin. I've seen you at many different meetings, and as Lou alluded to, even at the department head meeting, all your notes across the boards and everything, we've seen it. This personnel would work after hours, weekends, holidays, if need be.
Sure, confidential employee, serves at my will, and is available for anything that comes up.
No further questions.
Councilor Papalato.
Just a couple questions, because I'm trying to get my head wrapped around this one. So, the surrounding towns, you said you've done some research. Can you share some of that? Like, what, the surrounding towns, what who has this role and who doesn't, or, you know?
I could tell you Haverhill, Lynn, Marlboro, Medford,
Medford.
Melrose, Somerville, those,
Chelsea,
those, yeah, those are a
Braintree.
few.
Braintree.
Yeah. Uh, And then of the Amesbury, I'm trying to think of the new mayors I met, Amesbury, Fitchburg, I know Leominster does. Every city does in many.
That's where,
many
because
of
the
the
city's in a
towns.
kind of a different category,
Yeah,
right?
but
There's more going
surprisingly,
on.
yeah, even many of the towns have, bigger towns,
Yeah.
of course, but yeah, they do too. A few of them, I have some, a couple of them have chief of staff, deputy chief of staff. Communities,
Yeah.
Waltham, not much bigger than us.
Right.
It's becoming the norm, and to your point, it's, we're running close to a $200 million corporation here. There's required staff to get that done.
Yep.
Um,
And I too trust everything that you're doing here. I mean, you've got a lot on your plate, you're everywhere. I see that, you're, wherever you running from fire to fire to fire, so I get that part of it. What, the question is why is it that it's so important to add this position now versus as part of the budget process?
I actually thought about coming down in January. I don't want to get so far behind that I'm digging back out of a hole. So I wanted to wait at least a little while to confirm my thoughts and my gut and the
Yeah.
information I was receiving from other people. And 3 months in, I believe now is the time. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 more months to
Okay.
make this happen.
I would feel more comfortable to see that packaged up with everything else, because I have concerns over what's coming down in the budget.
As do
There's
I.
gonna be some serious discussions going on in there,
As you
and
know,
this
there
is
already
another
are, yeah.
piece, I know.
Yeah.
And, so I trust your judgment and your leadership, but I would like to see it packaged in with the budget, but I don't
I mean, at
know.
this point, what we're talking about is there's a period of time between now and June 30th, where, of course, there's a certain amount of money that needs to pay for this person
Right.
when they start. But I would have this as part of my budget proposal come July 1, no doubt. I'm convinced of that
But
now.
you'll fill it sooner, though,
I
right?
hope to fill it
Right,
very quickly, yes.
Right.
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Councilor Campbell?
Hi, Mike.
Thank you, Ray.
Mayor, excuse me. It's critical, I think, to have a chief of staff. I was surprised that the prior administration did not have one, because the mayors before that did. He was new by not having one, and I think that his administration would have benefited by having a chief of staff. Plus, with the size of our city and the rate that our city is growing, and the amount of projects, and obviously with the downtown, redoing the downtown, I think absolutely one is needed to keep things moving, because we want you to stay sane and on top of everything, so that you're not frazzled. Not that I think you would be, but if you were doing it all without, say, a chief of staff, I think it could start to get to the point where maybe you weren't able to feel that you had the time to come to see us and give us information on what is going on in the city and updating us. And I just think that's extremely important, so I absolutely will support a chief of staff,
Thank
for sure.
Appreciate it.
I'll just offer my comments, having been a chief aide in the legislature, that, I mean, I'm amazed it's taken us so long to build out the mayor's office, to be honest. This is something, we're at the staffing level of most mayor's offices from like the early 90s. When the advent of technology coming through, we had just got the internet, and now it's social media where the city can be contacted in multiple facets of ways. When I worked in the legislature, just the email volume alone from a legislative district of 40,000 people was a lot. It was difficult to get back to folks. So I think when you build out your staff, it's basically having folks that'll help the city's trains run on time and allow the mayor to think big think. Be on top of projects, not worry about the logistical nightmares of scheduling or making sure that even the minute details are taken care of, because we want to make sure that you're on top of the Woburn Common project, as opposed to that possibly falling off to track due to the fact that a crisis happens in the city and it has to be managed. So I think added support allows you to do your job better. So that's why I'm 100% in support of the position. I think it'll be an asset to the office. And with regards to concerns about the buffer, you know, that's a change in culture that needs to occur in the sense of making sure, and I have all faith in the mayor, to have it more of a conduit to the council so that we can get to you if we need to get to you. And also it'll help increase, I think, the communication, and that was one of the 10 points of your campaign. So I think this is a good step in the right direction.
Thank you,
Joe, real
Council
quick. As somebody that reported directly to a mayor for 7 years, the access to the mayor is sometimes challenging, and I think this position will help with communication. As a police chief, if the mayor was out of pocket, not accessible for a couple of hours, sometimes the communication needs to happen, and I think that this job will either, A, make you more accessible, or B, give us a more direct conduit to somebody for your office to weigh in on something. So, huge in support of it.
President John?
Yep, thank you. So, Mayor Concanon, I fully support this. I'm sure, like a lot of my other councilors, what I did is I did some research. And whether it's town managers or mayors, not only, most of them, if not all of them, had assistants. Some had assistants to the assistants. And some of them, particularly the town managers, the salary on it was a lot more than you're making. So, you know, what's right is right. You've taken this job. You should have the ability to fulfill not only the job, but also have a life as well. So I 100% support this based on the research I've done. And City Council President doesn't feel threatened by this at all. As a matter of fact, on a personal note, can you be careful crossing the street? Keep your physicals up, because fish is season.
I promise.
Thank you.
All right, what is the will of the committee?
A motion ought to pass.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Thank you, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
I call the Committee on Personnel to order. On the committee is Councilor Demers, Councilor Toro, and myself, Jermaine Campbell, as chair.
Can you give me a minute to see if one of the candidates is out in the hall? I haven't seen
Sure.
her. Oh, she is.
Oh, good, okay. Do I have a motion
So moved.
for the reading of the previous term minutes? Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes
Is
have
this
it.
yours, Mr.
I
Jones?
thought you might want to say it.
No, it's okay.
Mind if I just move this so Tracy can sit down?
Oh, sure.
It's implied.
Okay, it's implied, okay. Hi, Tracy. Good. First on the agenda, we have the appointment of Tracy A.R. Jolly to the Woburn Board of Registrars of Voters. Welcome, Tracy. You can come sit right up the front.
Excuse me, I'm catching up. Did you accept the minutes?
We
Yes.
did.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have waited for
That's
you.
okay.
Hi there,
How are you?
welcome.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
How are you tonight?
I'm well, thanks, Joan. How are you?
I'm doing well. So please take a few minutes to tell us about yourself and your experience and why you're interested in joining the Board of Registrars of Voters.
Okay, so virtually a lifelong, I think I'm allowed to say that, right? 53 years here in Woburn. Grew up, did some time under Bob here at the police station for a number of years. I was a police officer there. I'm currently on the Board of Trustees for the Woburn Public Library, which I will, assuming I get this opportunity to be on the registrars, I will resign from that position. The reason that I'm interested is I've really enjoyed my time on the Board of Trustees for the library, but I'm ready to move on and try something new within the city. I've got decades of involvement in different different city activities and service to the city, and I want to continue my service with the city, but now in this new role, if I'm fortunate enough to get it.
Okay. Just another question. With the elections, obviously, you'll need to be available for primaries and the election day to help out Lindsay, our city clerk. Will that be an issue, or would that be fine?
It's no problem at all. I work from home. My
Okay.
schedule is very flexible, and I wouldn't have any problem taking time off if need be for certainly for the elections and other times throughout if that's needed as well.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions?
Questions?
Just more of a statement.
Okay, can I have a motion to open it up?
He's
Oh,
on
you're
the-
on
he's
it,
on the
I'm
committee.
sorry, Rob.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Question, please.
Tracy, thanks for coming. More, like I said, more of a statement. I just wanted to say, I think Tracy would be a great addition to the Board of Registrars of Voters. She's been a great asset to the, as a trustee of the library, and knowing her personally, I think no matter what board or commission she serves on, she'd be amazing, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Make a motion, I'll make a motion to open it up to other
Second.
members.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Counselor Mercer Bruin.
I just ditto what Rob said. You're a great asset to our community, and I think this is gonna be, Lindsay is gonna be, stop it. So, thank you for being willing to serve.
Yes, exactly. Counselor Ferrulo.
I second the love fest here.
Anybody else?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, I got a chance to know Tracy over the past year because she was a candidate for public office, but just based on her background, I think, you know, one of the issues that we don't always think about is election security, so your law enforcement background. But then also with the changing rules that we keep having in election policy, I think that your background as a lawyer also will be vital to the board, so I'm 100% supportive of this appointment.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yes.
How you doing, Tracy?
I'm well. How are you?
I was the liaison to the library prior to being city council president, so I saw you at work there. And I was very impressed. Your legal background, you helped in rewriting some of the bylaws, and you put your heart and soul into it, and it showed. So I think you do great at this job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, do I
Make a
have
motion to return to the regular order of business.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion that the appointment of Tracy A.R. Jolly to the Woburn Board of Registrars of Voters is sent out ought to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Congratulations.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Have a good night. Next on the agenda, we have the appointment of Catherine Hahn to the Commission on Disability. Excuse me? Okay. Hi there, welcome. How are you tonight?
Wow, how are you?
Good. Thank you. This was a long wait for you, over an hour. Thank you for your patience. So just take a few moments, tell us about yourself,
Sure.
and why you would like to be on the Commission on Disability.
Okay. So, thank you for having me. But before I kind of dive in, I just wanted to say, like, I do have some challenges that can affect my word finding and processing speed. So I just may need you to be patient now and then to navigate those moments. So I've lived in Woburn for 11 years now, and I was a former educator, middle school and high school. Currently I work part-time at the Boys and Girls Club, but of Stono and Wakefield, under their workforce development program for something called Inspire. And that actually came to be after the closing of Biddy and Bowes, which I also worked at part-time. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Biddy and Bowes.
Is that the coffee shop?
It was the coffee shop that employs people mainly with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I've been living with MS for over 8 years now, and in late 2019, I had a life-changing event. So not all disabilities are visible. So yeah.
Any questions?
No, just to say,
Oh,
I was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
so that's just about me.
okay.
Yes.
So, but I want, the other question was,
I think the
Just the
question
second part
was,
of the
Madam
question.
Chair, so-
Why you're interested?
okay, so I obviously am very deeply committed to helping people with disabilities because I've lived in the non-disabled world for the majority of my life and now I'm living in the disabled world. So, you know, obviously I love to help people being a former teacher and now my little part-time job with the Boys and Girls Club. We're trying to, we just actually got approved and we found a spot in Wakefield to open up a coffee shop to, yes, yes. We actually were at a city council meeting last week and got the approval. So, yeah, I just feel like, you know, my perspective of, and firsthand experience having an invisible disability, I can offer some unique insights that might be overlooked. And so, yeah.
No, just a statement, I was just gonna say, it's very inspirational having you here this evening. I just think it's, you know, somebody facing challenges actually wants to be part of the policy making, and I think that that's phenomenal. So you
Absolutely.
have my support 100%.
Yes. Councilor Toro.
Being a former member of the Commission on Disability before being elected to council, and Mayor Concanon, I've said this to him before, it's love to see all the appointments to the Commission on Disability, because when I joined, or when I was appointed 4 or 5 years ago, it was just kind of being revived, and we're trying through COVID to figure out what our purpose was, and you'll come to find out that that's still the case, and Mayor Concanon has made it a point to help the Commission on Disability find that purpose. But you'll be joining a commission that has several amazing members, and I look forward to your work on the commission.
Do I have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Viola.
First, thank you for your willingness to come and support the city and volunteer as a member of the commission. I can tell you that my mother actually has MS for over 50 years now, so I do know what you're going through and what you've been through. They've come a long way with treating MS, and hopefully one day soon they'll be able to have a cure. But I'm happy to see that the commission's getting reinvigorated, more newer people on there with new ideas, so thank you for your willingness to
That's good.
serve.
I do have some new ideas. Just my my connections, because of Inspire Cafe, some of the parents are members of the Wakefield Commission on Disability. And then I also have some friends in Melrose, so it would be great to exchange ideas and share experiences and learn from their initiatives. And then hopefully, like, as a cross-community, like, collective, like, effort to help those that are disabled.
Absolutely, yeah. Councilor Ferrullo.
I just want to thank you for your willingness to serve, but more importantly, for your strength to put yourself out there and be open. It's huge. And Mayor Concanon, thank you for your meaningful appointments to these committees that really make a difference in the way the city runs. But thank you.
President Dillon.
I just want to say thank you for coming here tonight and volunteering to get on the commission. It's a very important commission. They do great work, and I'm so impressed with your courage. You'll do great. Thanks for coming in.
Catherine, thank you again. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, so let me just finish my comment. Thank you, and I love the Inspire Cafe idea. How wonderful is that? I mean, to have something like that is so valuable for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Even like you said, I love the way that you're describing an invisible disability. And also, Mayor, once again, the people that you are picking or you're nominating for these boards and commissions really are just wonderful choices. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Yeah. Councilor Papaloukas.
I haven't met you before, but I thank you for coming, and I think inspirational is the right term for you. I think it's awesome that you're getting involved, and fresh ideas are welcome. So I support you.
Councilor DeMambro?
And just to echo, I mean, inspiring, you're courageous, you have an energy about you, and you just, I'm excited. I'm excited because it is an important aspect of our community. There's a lot of areas that need improvement, that need to be, overseen. Mayor Concanon, thank you so much. So I'm looking forward to, it almost sounds like you're already in the role, quite honestly. So congratulations, and welcome aboard.
Councilor Mercer
I'm
Bruin?
gonna, even though you haven't had your formal vote yet, I'm gonna welcome you aboard and thank you so much. And if there's anything that we, as a city council, can do to assist you, please don't hesitate to call any one of us, ever.
Anyway.
And you said you were in front of the Wakefield City Council, they're probably not nearly as fun as we are. I'm
All
just
good
saying.
looking. All good looking.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And Mayor, thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the appointment of Catherine Hahn to the Commission on Disability be sent out ought to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Catherine.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Katie, I'll be in touch with you about instructions about what's next.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Gordon.
Thank you for coming.
Next on the agenda is the appointment of Sakis S. Chinian as the chair of the Woburn Board of Registrars of Voters.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is a designation as chairman. Sarkis, as you know, is already on the board. We didn't feel that he would need to be here. He is taking over this role as a result of the tragic passing of Joe Palmisano. Sarkis has been on the board for several years. I've talked to him, and Lindsay has talked to him about the additional responsibilities. I'm sure he'll do a very good job, so I'd ask for your support for Sarkis to be the chairman.
Any comments?
Nope, I'll make a motion that the appointment of Sarkis S. Chinian as the chair of the Woburn Board of Registrars of Voters is sent out ought to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Next on the agenda, reappointment of Paul A. Scanlon Jr. to the Commission on Disability.
I'll make a motion,
Yeah, again, this is a reappointment. Paul's been on for several years, he's doing a great job. He is interested in the new direction. I think he'll be a great continued asset.
I'll make a motion that the reappointment of Paul A. Scanlon Jr. to the Commission on Disability is sent out ought to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have
And I'll
it.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Oh, I was gonna ask him that. Oh, okay.
Darlene, I think these folks are gonna set up on the machines.
Okay, should I move?
No, you don't have to.
Oh.
I think I do. Yes. Where do we set it? Yeah, you can use my desk, I'll move.
Hello. Please.
Billy's one of those while you're up guys. While you're up.
Yeah.
Can I get anybody else?
Get your number now, Papalato.
Yeah, what do you want? I'm trying to be efficient.
Lou, I could use one too.
Gotta make sure. Darlene, we gotta make sure we sit Bill next to the cooler.
I know.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Tough crowd here,
Oh,
huh?
we'll just move it over next to Lou.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was going, but I didn't say that. At like, my mother was there.
Something wrong with the top of that glass or what?
You have to go in on one side, you go on the other side.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Tracy and Dr. Haskell.
Like our meetings
Hey,
at
look.
that planning committee.
Glass is half full.
MSA.
All right.
You were first on
You said
there.
Dr.
So you're an optimist, Billy.
What's that?
Back to said it was half full. You're an optimist. Back
Oh, I
to
thought you
two.
were talking about Dr. Hess.
Thank you very much, by the way.
K-E-T-H.
Same.
No, I haven't been there.
I don't know where the hell I went.
Perhaps, it's a very unusual name.
Yeah.
How come we don't do it like that?
I'm not volunteering to do it either.
What?
Oh, we could probably put in the phone room, we could probably put a few racks of water so we have waters at the meetings.
Joey's down
Joe,
there.
tell me when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, we're gonna convene the meeting on special permits. On the committee, it's myself, Councilor Mercer Bruin, we have Councilor Campbell, Councilor Viola, Councilor DeMambro, and Councilor Demers. We only have one item on our agenda tonight for garage 42 degrees.
Motion to
For-
dispense with the previous minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For a minor modification to a special permit dated November 7th, 2023, by replacing the 3-month time limit with 9 months at 20 Soner Drive. And at some point, I'll entertain a motion right now to open this up to other committee members.
Second.
And on that, all in favor?
Aye.
And on that note, at the beginning of the discussion, I'll defer to the people that are on the committee, and then we'll move along from there. Attorney Tarby, you have the
Okay.
floor.
Okay. With me tonight is David Danforth of 20 Stone Drive, LLC, Joe Geico of DC Bean, the engineer, and Ryan Douglas, Attorney Ryan Douglas of my office. The request is before the council tonight, or that we filed with the council, is to extend the 3-month period to 9 months. So that would be retroactively back to November, so that would carry it through to August. So since the special permit was issued in November, there's been a substantial amount of study and due diligence that we've undertaken to try to resolve the problem of the rock fall and the best way to mitigate it. We also had a site visit a couple of weeks ago. Council Papalato was present, Tom Quinn was present, Mayor Concanon was present, and we reviewed the site, close up and discussed some of the problems that we were having with the rock fall. So the additional time that we've requested would be to finalize the plans. We would need to go to the Board of Appeals to seek a variance for setbacks and for height. And then come back to the City Council for approval of a modification of the special permit and a revised site plan. So David, in a minute, is going to present an overview of the rockfall issue and the proposed mitigation. So we started looking at this, after the public hearing in November, and we started with the idea put forth by the Woburn resident, John Flaherty, and we took that, well beyond that. We also discussed with Tom Quinn, the building commissioner, about when a storage container doesn't become a storage container and how it becomes a structure. And we'll show you all that during this PowerPoint presentation. So David, if you want to take us through that.
Sure. So since last November, we've explored 8 different options. We've had meetings with the mayor, with some city council members, and the building commissioner.
Wait, just stop 1 second. We do have copies of the PowerPoint presentation.
Can I have a motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
10 copies, right, Joe? Yeah, thanks.
Dinner's gonna be late tonight.
Yeah, so we have had a couple of meetings with the mayor, some city council members, the building commissioner, including one on-site review as well. And then we have now shortlisted it down to 3 options. We have a structural engineer on board to help with the structural engineering drawings, and we've been working with our existing civil engineer to update civil drawings as well. Since our last meeting, the rock fall has continued to be an issue. We did have some larger rocks fall over the past couple months. And then this was the incident that's been mentioned in previous meetings where we had a small rock break into a car. So there have been, yeah, a couple of incidents that we're looking to protect. Here's a local plan of what we're looking to propose. So the rockfall barrier and then potential future extension of it to help protect this area, the parking area as well. This would also require some restriping, but not change our parking count and which we call the parking spots within the ordinance. Some photos of the existing condition, if you aren't familiar with the site, these are the two buildings on the property, and then this is the large. Some photos of the containers that got put in place, and the cliff, including some smaller rocks that are fallen. All this debris has been cleaned up too, just now. So yeah, proposed option one, utilize existing storage containers unballasted. This would still include us converting them into a rockfall barrier, but would not have the ballasting inside of them. And then this option would do the same thing, but we'd be ballasting inside of the container by filling them with large precast. This is option three. This was given to us actually by the same contractor that was used to hang this mesh. They're a national company that does rockfall mitigation, and they propose 300 feet of rockfall barrier at the bottom of the cliff. This would be in lieu of the existing system. This is more of what they were proposing. It's a structural mesh, actually designed specifically for rockfall mitigation. Some sections of it will be mounted directly to the ground, and some will be mounted on top of traditional Jersey barriers. And this would be an engineered solution that they would give drawings for. So here's kind of the outline of those three options. The option of converting the containers, but unballasted, converting the containers for ballasting them, and then that rockfall barrier option shown in the previous slide. Some of the pros and cons to these, cost being a pretty considerable one. Some of the pros being neighbor impact, as we've seen in the past, the installation of the rockfall netting systems can cause issues. And in order for this company to perform installation of that netting, they require them to scale and potentially remove trees from the top of the cliff in order to make to do the installation. So these two options would reduce the need for that, and then disturbances to neighbors at the top. We are currently working with an engineer to get engineering plans, so likely we will be able to get some of the engineering and engineering drawings for both these options as well. Next steps for the first two options would be to connect the containers filled with cement blocks and block doors to structure become rockfall barriers and no longer be able to be used as storage containers. Acquire a stamped plan from a structural engineer, revised site plan showing setbacks from lot lines to the barriers and height, including updated parking, and then file a variance petition, appealing for public hearing, and then file a special permit petition with the city council seeking to revise these site plans. And I think that's all.
So the idea would be, so the request before the council is to extend the time for an additional 6 months. So a storage container becomes a structure if they're filled with cement, the doors are sealed so you can't access them, and a structural engineer inspects it and issues an opinion as to the integrity of the ability of the structure to prevent the rockfall. When we talked to Tom after the site visit, and I think it was either Councilor Mercer Bruin or DeMambo that brought up the necessity of having a structural engineer And so we finally got a structural engineer on board. They're not easy to, they're very busy, there's very few of them. We finally got one on board who would look at the proposal, and I think they're willing to opine that converting this to a structure, so it'll all be one piece, they'll all be connected together, so they won't be individual, they won't be used for storage, they'll be filled with cement, and there'll be an opinion from the structural engineer. So that's the direction we're going in. The last option that David showed is at a price of, $700,000, which is, really cost prohibitive. You really have to take a ride over there to appreciate, what we're talking about. It's pretty, I don't know, I was afraid to go near that. I don't know about you, but, so that's the proposal in a nutshell.
Okay. If providing the committee's okay with it, since this is Councilor Papalato's ward, I was going to defer to him for first comments, if the Special Permits Committee is okay?
Thank
You have
you.
the floor.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So first off, let me say, I've met with you guys a couple of times. We did a site visit over there, extremely impressive operation, I must say. You took us through a tour there, it was very, very impressive. That being said, when we first met, this is exactly the same options that I saw then. So I thought that we were perfectly clear that those storage containers were not going to be allowed on that premises. And I see that you keep going back to those as option 1 and 2. So maybe you can explain, it was our understanding, and we've been clear since the beginning of the first meeting, those containers need to go. But it seems like you're not taking no for an answer, and you keep going back to them.
Yeah, so the difference is, on that site visit, and after that site visit, we talked to Tom about how, I don't want to use the word storage container, we're going to take that material and we're going to make it a barrier. It's going to be one structure. So I don't see it setting a precedent for other parts of the community, because you're going to have all those storage containers, if you will, welded together, doors not being able to be used, and a structural engineer saying that this is a structure that will withstand, the rocks falling from the cliff. And we would have to go to the Board of Appeals to get a variance on the height of that structure and the setback. So I understand, clearly, when you talked about storage containers themselves,
Right.
I understood that, completely. But we've looked at this so many different ways, and the idea was to convert these into an actual structure. So using the material, using the container as it is, and then filling it with cement, welding them together, making them not available as a storage container. So when I said at the beginning, when does a storage container not become a storage container? It's when it's converted to a structure like we proposed. So.
Yeah. I'm totally not in favor of this option here. I think we've been clear about that. There's been no bait and switch here. We've been clear from the beginning what was acceptable and what wasn't. And I'm not in favor of this proposal, of option 1 and 2.
All set, Bill? All set? Okay. Councilor DeMambro? And then Councilor-
Joe, I was there today. I took a walk around the site. I went behind the panels. And what I did see, and I have a picture of it because I found it to be interesting, that there is a boulder, this decent sized boulder, it's probably half the size of a Volkswagen, on the left-hand side, that broke right through one of those Jersey barriers. You actually cracked it. That's pretty impressive, to crack that in half, or at least a third of it.
So if I just stop there, so our proposal was to extend the structure down to the end, so
Right.
you wouldn't have those Jersey.
So, in lieu of that, and I understand what Council Papalato was speaking of, why, and I brought this up before, why aren't you even thinking about steel interlock seashore panels being driven in to the ground? They're interlock, they're at least, 5/8 inch thick. When you pound those into the ground, and if you double barrier it and put some sort of substrate in between, I don't care what boulder you have, you can put a nuclear bomb next to it, it ain't gonna bend it. I don't know why that option isn't being at least entertained, besides, because again, I don't see these Connex containers, you know, as the answer. They might be an inexpensive answer as opposed to what I'm proposing. And I think if you went to a structural engineer, he would tell you, yeah, those panels are pretty much what you need over there. But there's gonna be a price tag on it, but it would be the right way to go about it.
Right, David, you have consulted with structural engineer.
Yeah, we did look into options like that, either concrete walls or steel walls, and the price was considerable. We're also not on soft ground, it's pretty much immediately ledge, so something like that would require probably a significant amount of hammering, if not maybe potentially even blasting to put a foundation in for panels like that. And then actually finding a structural engineer that's willing to support something that wasn't designed for rockfall mitigation proves to be pretty difficult. Really, that company that we've dealt with is one of very, very few in the nation that will design an engineered system specifically for rockfall mitigation.
So whatever barrier you put in place has gotta be a surface type application. You can't go into the ground, is that what you're telling me? There's too much ledge over there to go into the ground?
You can't go into the ground more than 2 or 3 feet, and then you start hitting ledge in that area. You start to just hit the bottom of what used to be the core.
And you looked into drilling options and putting I-beams in and then welding structures against those I-beams? Have you looked into those types of applications?
I don't believe we found any company that offered a solution like that for rockfall mitigation. This company that we went to, if that was an option, then they likely would have proposed it. They proposed a slew of different options, from things like gabion walls to that this netting system. They proposed drape mesh, they installed their drape mesh, so they know every option that there is for rockfall mitigation, and I assume they would have proposed something like that if they thought it was a suitable solution.
And I would kind of buy into that, and I would ask my councilors to get on, my fellow councilors. You have a rock down there that broke right through one of those. That's what's concerning me about that application.
Mhm.
I mean, it's right there on site, so, all right, thank you.
Council Demers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I mean, this has been a difficult petition for a while. I know it was a point of contention with the barriers, and, you know, I would never advocate against the ward alderman or the ward council, but I just wanna spitball on some ideas. One of them was gonna be, why not construct a cement wall and seek the variance, but the engineering apparently doesn't work there. What about, you know, and some of these ideas that have also come up, I know Mr. Flaherty actually had one at our last meeting of a way to kind of jerry-rig something. You still gotta have an engineer sign off on it. And some of these ideas I've heard might not pass muster on an engineer stamping it. Has there been discussion? And I know the overall cost is a lot, but was there any discussion of maybe a phased implementation of option 3, where you would do it in sections over time, so it's not a $700,000 hit all at once?
Not really.
So it's
because-
just a non-negotiable that the $700K total cost of doing this retention is just off the table in terms of the petitioner's sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What about, let me see, I'm just trying to compromise here because it's a good business in the area, and it seems like a problem that should have a solution we can get to. Where are you at on your required parking on site? Are you, so in terms of, I could go over there one day and it is literally filled.
No. We pretty much are only occupying the front parking lot at the moment.
Okay, so
Yeah,
is
we
there?
met I think 76 were required,
So my point
provided
being is, could you put Jersey barriers that delineate a new line of demarcation where the rocks are coming down from, where we, rather than coming with a special or the special permit requirement, we could change the amount of required parking spaces so that you don't have cars parking in the back by the wall, by the cliff.
Well, unfortunately, maybe with two different businesses we can do it. If it were just one business,
It'd be
there's no
spots on it.
mechanism to reduce parking, but if there's two businesses, there is a mechanism. The question would be whether, we'd have to explore whether you needed all that parking, Dave, you know?
Because I see just a kind of a novel approach to it in the sense of if we require you to have less parking and you don't need the parking. I mean, even in that sense, could we be okay with Jersey barriers just cutting through those parking spots? I mean, it's just an idea I was thinking of on the fly.
I think it's something worth taking a look at, that's thinking outside the box.
Counselor Demers,
Yeah, I'm all
You
set,
good?
thank you.
Counselor Campbell?
Yeah, I'm also trying to think outside the box. $700,000, holy smokes. For netting, when the netting wasn't working to begin with. To put netting in for rocks, whereas, you know, as you were saying, Councilor DeMambro, it went right through the Jersey barrier. I mean, that's a huge boulder, so obviously that's not working. I can't even see that this option, I mean, once again, I mean, with this here, going through the Jersey barriers, if they can't go down deep enough into the ground, it's not gonna be something that's going to hold the rocks. So what do you do? I understand, Councilor, that, about the crates, the storage containers. I guess my question is, do you not like the storage containers, if you don't mind me asking, because of the looks of them? Or what is it that you're against because now they're coming forward saying that really they're no longer storage containers, even though they are, but they're now one big unit?
Right, well, the other part of this is the neighbors are not happy with these containers being there. So
Okay.
what's gonna happen is,
For
the
the
containers are gonna remain there, and they're gonna be filled with cement, I guess, according to one of these options.
Hmm.
So they're still physically there,
Yeah,
so that's
they
the
don't
other.
like the look of them,
Right,
that's what the,
Does it make any sense for us to meet with those neighbors?
what's that?
We'll be willing to meet with those neighbors, you know?
That's,
Up
sure.
front.
I guess. could
Certainly
I-
do that, but I know what you're gonna hear. 'Cause I've heard it.
These ones up on the hill?
I was just gonna ask, are they the ones on top of the hill?
Yep.
Because if not, could you have put, say, a fence in front of the storage unit so that it wasn't something you were really seeing? But obviously, if they're on the other side, being seen, if that's the issue.
I'd like an opportunity to meet with them, because if you're in your house, you're not gonna, you know, the hill's like this and the houses are here, but if they're looking over the fence, I don't know if there's anything we could do
Yeah.
to appease them, you know?
I mean, gosh, it's got to be something that we can do, and I just think it's unreasonable to think that a company is gonna be able to spend $700,000 on a solution when it looks like it's not working already on the amount that they spent with the netting already, so, never
Yeah.
mind the Jersey barriers.
I guess I can comment.
Oh, sure.
I guess the netting that we put up that already exists isn't designed to stop rockfall, it's to control it. So, that netting has been doing a good job of making sure that rocks are just kept close to the cliff as they fall, so they don't bounce into the parking lot.
Okay.
But it's where that netting doesn't exist, because that only exists for a 100-foot section currently.
Okay.
That's where we've seen some rocks have other issues. And I guess one of the points, I guess, on the existing barriers being moved, I guess those are standard Jersey barriers. They weigh somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 pounds. Our plan was to load close to 40,000 or 50,000 pounds into the containers, so they'll be pretty solid and considerably more weight. So a rock impact won't affect them as much. Plus, the container will have some give and be able to absorb some of that impact compared to concrete that will crack.
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but the rock that we have a picture of that went through the Jersey barrier is not gonna be stopped by this.
Yeah, well, so that
I mean, I might be wrong, but I can figure that out myself.
Yeah, well, so our plan was to connect all the containers, so for rock impact to push the whole thing would be pretty solid.
Okay, so I'm an artist, as you know, so let's think, what can be
There is,
done?
hold on, Counselor Campbell. there's some other people that wanna
Yeah,
talk,
no,
and then
no,
maybe
just-
we can get back to, or you have a
No, no, I
plan on
just,
how they could look nice?
no, I just wanna bring the question out,
Okay.
okay? What can be done to those crates for them not to look like crates? So that the people up above would be okay with them? If you put wood around them or something so they no longer have that terrible metal look, is there something that could be done to a facade of some sort on the top and the sides to make it look at least more appealing, is what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you.
Option, yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
It's something for you to consider,
Yeah.
but here's something else for you to consider
Yeah.
before I open it up to the rest of the council. I am absolutely not gonna support keeping those storage containers there. I don't care what you're filling with, gold bars, I will not support it. They don't belong there, they never should have gone there, and it will set a precedent. And it might not be for containers, but it will set a precedent for, maybe I'll do this, and I'll figure it out later. We have to be clear on this, people. I'm begging you. But I wanted to make it clear to you, sir, I will never support doing anything with these containers. They need to go. As the chairman of special permits and working with these fine group of counselors, we will work with you to find a different solution, but I will never sign off on that one. Having said that, Councilor Toro, you had some comments?
Yes, thank you. Just some background questions, because I know this,
Yeah.
this topic came up prior to me being on the council, but I was at the meeting. Maybe the members of the council or Attorney Tabby can answer this. These containers were put on there without approval in the first place?
Yes.
Correct. And then during that meeting, I think it was very clear that you had X amount of time, the 3 months, to make significant progress, and then we can explore at that point. My question, couple questions to you. This progress that you've made, when did this progress actually start to happen? You know, outside of exploring the 8 options, right? And then, meeting with the mayor, city council, it seems like happened more recently than not.
Yep, in the last 6 or 8
Shortlisted down to
weeks.
3 options, onboard the engineer, updated civil drawings. This seems like it's all happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, much more often, much more frequently than it was prior to November, right? Am I mistaken there, or?
The engineering company that came in for option 3, they visited on site, I believe, somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that was pretty immediate to the past meeting. I think probably within 3 or 4 weeks.
Being a business owner, I'm usually pretty business friendly and understanding. I'm gonna back Councilor Papalato and Councilor Mercer Bruin on this. I don't think these storage containers should be there. They weren't supposed to be there in the first place. And as much as someone may say that this does not set a precedence, I think like Councilor Mercer Bruin said, it does. Whether it's a storage containers or something else, it gives people the impression that, hey, this isn't allowed, but I'll put it on there because I think it's a good option, and then I'll bring it before the council, I'll bring it before a department. And they're already there, so let's just settle. And I don't love that option. And again, I hate the fact that you have option 1 and 2, which are reasonably priced, and then you jump right to this extraordinary cost, right? But again, being a business owner, being someone that owns property, when I buy a property, I know what the costs are going to be when I purchase it. This rock didn't just appear there when you bought this property. So, and again, I'm sympathetic to it, and I echo some of the other councilors' stance that we'll work with you to find a solution. But I'm not super sympathetic that you have to spend money to mitigate this problem. And option 1 and 2 would never get my support. I think it looks terrible. I'm a Ward 2 resident as well. You need to do better, and you need to come with a better option. I can't vote on this matter, right? I'm not part of the special permits committee. I would vote no on giving you the extension, personally. You need to do better. We appreciate your business. We love business in the city, but you gotta come with a better option, or you're gonna get stuck, I think, with option 3. if you don't come with a better option, than option 1 and 2.
Can I just
Oh,
make-
so,
make
Attorney
one comment
Tarby
to
and
that?
then,
Yeah, so,
Counsel Viola.
well, Matilda, just for your benefit and other councilors, and I'm not suggesting that this makes it right, but there are many businesses in the city that understand that you need to get approval to put storage containers on your property. I just, drive through the industrial park, drive through Cummings Park, you drive through residential neighborhoods, you see people with pods, on their front lawn for weeks and months, and you see these storage containers throughout the industrial park. And I can't tell you, in the last, 5, 6 years, how many calls I've gotten. Tom Quinn will go buy a piece of property, there's a storage container, they'll call, what do I have to do? Well, you have to go to the city council for a special permit, or you gotta get rid of the storage container. So that's not a clear cut issue to people. I know in David's case, when he bought this property, it really didn't have a history of the rock fall. Just like there's climate changes, throughout the country. All of a sudden in the past, how long, David, year?
Yeah, the past year, pretty much
Past
before
year,
that,
he's
for the
been
first 4 years
experiencing
we saw
these
nothing.
rock falls, and he doesn't know why. So it wasn't like he, didn't do his due diligence before he bought the property. So I just wanted to make myself clear on that.
I don't know if cutting down some of those trees had something to do with the rock falling, but to the point about, people not knowing the law, last time I checked, and I am not a lawyer, ignorance of the law is not an excuse for not following.
But that's why I
Especially as a
started,
business owner,
Yeah.
I would think you'd wanna know the rules of our city, and go out of your way to know the rules of the city, so. Councilor Viola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Currently, what's being stored inside these storage containers? Because I know at the previous meeting, you said you were gonna store some stuff inside there.
Yeah, we store some stuff for the manufacturing company in there, some storage totes and some bins that are used for recycled
So it's
material.
still being used as a storage container?
Some of those have been pulled out, but there is still some stuff in them.
All right, and second question. Once those storage containers, if they're filled with cement, we'll say, and they start to degrade from rocks hitting them and stuff, the metal starts to break down, starts to rust, how are you gonna replace that if you're gonna weld them all together? You're gonna cut them? I mean, you said they're gonna be 40, 50,000 pounds? How are you gonna justify fixing that?
Oh, we'll stay on top of painting and priming them and repairing any damage that happens to them.
But once a hole gets put there, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're gonna start seeing the cement and the cement will break and start coming out.
If there was a major hole or something, we would either paint it to make sure that rust doesn't propagate from it, or patch it, and to make sure that it doesn't become a bigger issue. And then the cement inside will be precast blocks, so if there ever was one that needed to be replaced, then we could, I guess, potentially cut it out, remove the blocks and replace it.
So you're gonna...
With another storage container.
Exactly. So you're gonna cut the storage containers that are welded shut, open them up, potentially making it so that they're gonna rust, degrade, take out blocks, put blocks back in, weld it back up, you're saying?
Oh, we'd replace it and then repaint it. But this would probably be after 20+ years, I guess.
I can't see myself supporting either option 1 or 2, just knowing that what we stated prior that we're not in favor of it. We really haven't gone much further since that meeting in November, and I mean, I wouldn't be able to support.
Councilor DeMambro, then Demers, and President Dillon.
So, and I can appreciate, the cost effectiveness and all that, but it's a storage container. When you break it right down, it's a storage container. And you are right, they're all over North Woburn, they're in the industrial parks, and we're in the process of policing that and trying to take care of that and eliminate them slow but sure. But in any case, to Councilor, Madam Chair, her point, I don't want people throughout this city to all of a sudden see this as a, cheap fix, and they start using these things like it's an art class. Like, well, what can we use a storage container for this week? Because they're meant for a storage, they're meant to, handle freight, from coast to coast or wherever, overseas. That's what their purpose is for, and when they're done, they're chopped up, discarded, ground up, and they make Toyotas out of them. I would suggest maybe a double wall, because I was just on, it was kind of funny, I was on 128, stuck in traffic, and up on 128, there's dual barriers, and in the barriers, they fill them with like probably gravel, and then they put a concrete cap. And in some sections actually has, you know, fence posts with sections of fence. And I think in this particular case, if you were to take a line of Jersey barriers and you pin them into the ground by your estimates of 2 or 3 feet, that'll give it the stability so it can't move. Because currently, right now, whether it's storage containers or whether it's these barriers, the boulders hit them, they are going to move, they're going to shift. But if you pin the first line, you backfill it, you put a cap on it, and you put a chain link fence on top of that, with an exterior section of Jersey barriers, I think that's it. And I think it's going to be much more appealing. It's going to have structural integrity. It's going to get you where you guys need to be. Is there going to be a cost affiliated with it? Absolutely. But I think that's your sound solution. And that's, you know, it's got curb appeal, it's structurally, you know, stable, and I think it'll solve the problem. But storage containers, you know, filling them up with either more block or concrete or however you're going to do it, no. That's about as monkey as you can get. That's a ham and egg move, and I will not support it, no way, shape, or form. So I think maybe you should you know, contemplate your structural engineer looking into something like that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor Demers?
No, I just want to, it actually, when I was thinking about ideas, it actually came back to me. One of the first calls I got when I came onto the council was a resident who had just moved to Woburn, bought a home, that was their first home, and they had a converted pod as a shed. And it was found to be in violation of the city's zoning ordinances. And they were told to remove it by the building commissioner. So I really can't back up our building department on that ruling and then kind of do a patchwork approval on this one. The other thing that I wanted to mention, Attorney Tarby, and it's important to remember where the minor modification is to allow for additional time to come to a solution. We're not necessarily signing off on one of these 3 options.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted just to make that point. But is there a way that within that extended time, Attorney Tarby, do you believe you could possibly come to an option 2.5?
Yeah, I would hope, well, we built that time in because if you're over 6 feet high, you have to go to the Board of Appeals. And then the site plan is revised, where you have to come back to the council.
Because if there's an earnest effort by the petitioner and yourself to find an option 2.5, I don't mind giving that extension out, because you're working on it. But if we're gonna meet back here at the end of that extended time, and we're back at square one, because I think there's a very large leap between the option 2 and option 3. There's gotta be something that somebody can get creative with in the middle there. Even if it's something that, you know, the legality of, I don't know, I just think, you know, it's difficult for me to think we can't find a solution when, and I know we have our ordinances, and I know there's certain tenets to special permits, but if we just moved a few parking spaces, where they may be considered required parking, but you do not have staff parked there, and you put Jersey barriers across them. I think that's an accommodation that can be made that would resolve this, rather than the petitioner having to spend over $500,000. So maybe there's a legal way we can look at that, or an accommodation that can be made. Maybe there's some archaic Board of Appeals variance that we could find to get out of that parking. I don't know, but it seems that there's a lot of time and effort, a lot of study, a lot of engineering work going on here, where the only thing catching it is required parking spaces, or they could just tell their staff not to park there and they won't get hit by a rock. I mean, how far out are the rocks coming into the plan? So if the rocks are falling off outside of that yellow line right there, are they coming out all the way into the lot, or would it be like their final tumble roll is landing on the cars?
Yeah, when we saw the rock fall instant here, I assume you saw the similar thing. We saw some larger rocks, those pretty much all got stopped, but we saw smaller rocks and they ended up pretty much halfway into the parking.
Okay.
We also had a rockfall event here that was significantly stopped.
Because
by the
I wonder if
containers.
those Jersey barriers cut across maybe more of a shallow look. it could catch those and it won't be an impact on the vehicles in the lot. I don't know, we've spent a lot of time on it, but I just think that a simple solution is being prevented by ordinances and stuff like that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dylan, thank you.
Thank you. So, it is an advantage to go last, because I hear everyone's ideas, and I'm sitting here and I'm taking some of what Councilor Campbell wants to do, which is try to help the petitioner, as we all want to help the petitioner. First off, I do support the extension of the time. So I say that because the next thing I say, probably some of you won't agree with, and you may even think it's harsh, but I think it needs to be said. No one at this table told the petitioner to build a building under a cliff. That cliff was always there. There's some history here that the petitioner himself says it seems to have gotten worse in the last year. Well, that is my humble opinion, not being an engineer, but knowing what was at the top of that cliff prior to him going up and clearing it and decimating all the trees and the brush and everything that for years did a relatively probably decent job of holding everything together. So the petitioner himself has said in the last year it seems to have gotten worse. And then you bring in storage trailers. We all know that some people have storage trailers. They shouldn't have them. But this is 10 or 12 storage trailers, and we're gonna allow perhaps more. Sets a bad precedent. When's a storage trailer not a storage trailer? When's a chicken not a chicken? When you fry it, bake it, or fricassee it? It's still a storage trailer.
Still a chicken.
It's as simple as that. It just, I'm all for coming up with something different, but I'm gonna support the city council ward, Billy on this right to the end. It just doesn't make sense. You know, there's an old saying, rather get forgiveness than permission. I'm sorry in the cost. You know, we have to make sure in the future that we're not sitting here doing the same thing again.
That's right.
So, that's all I have to say.
I would just like to comment to that quickly. The area that we removed trees was this area. This is where the netting is. We've seen no rockfall incidents from this. None of the rockfall incidents that have happened have been because of the tree removal. If anything, they're being caused by the trees that are there and the roots growing, and those causing the rocks to be removed.
And that's
So anything that we've done has not caused that, because we've only seen rocks fall from this area, and we didn't touch anything in this area. And this area is much more concerned with this building, which was a pre-existing building.
I just want to comment on something you said, Councilor Demers, is that there has to be some other option between 2 and 3, 2.5. The problem that I have is, this thing's been there since November, right? Nothing has changed. There's been zero forward progress on anything. And you know we've talked about this several times. There seems to be you need more time to come up with a solution, but you have to come up with a solution. It's not okay to leave what's there. It has to go, and it feels like you're not trying to move the ball forward and find solutions, because this is the exact same presentation I saw 2 months ago.
I guess to speak to that point, on the first slide, you mentioned that we've explored 8 options. I think the last time.
What were these 8 options? I'd be interested to hear about this.
Some of them were other options with that same company, so some of them were drape mesh options, even more expensive, that would require tree cutting, so things that would be even more negatively impactful on neighbors. Some of them were rock or concrete walls, or more traditional walls, and those I believe we couldn't find engineers that were willing to stamp them, or they were even more expensive in the $1 million+ range. I'm not sure on all of them on top, but certainly even just over the past couple months, there have been other options to explore, just none of them satisfied.
I know you need more time to come up with something, but we need to make sure you actually come up with something in whatever the time frame is, because nothing has changed here, nothing.
Well, it took us a while to get a structural engineer involved. And that was the most important part of doing the additional due diligence.
But you had 3 months.
I know, Bill, but there's, it was approved in November, these guys aren't on demand. I had to call building commissioners in other communities to get a structural engineer for a project I have going in Winchester, because they're not that readily available as civil engineers. So we did take the time, and just the time he put in talking to these engineers and getting estimates. So it's not like he got the approval in November and hasn't done anything.
But do you hear what I'm saying? There's been no forward progress on this since 2 months ago.
Well, we had a structural engineer who opined that if you put this cement in the containers, and I know people don't want to see that, I'm just explaining. That took a while for him, because whatever testing they have to do in terms of the weight versus what's falling off the cliff. I understand what you're saying, but we haven't been sitting here twiddling our thumbs.
That's what it looks like. That's the problem.
Okay,
I
so
just have one more comment, if I could. I just want to make a clarification. I just want to make it clear that I am not for the use of storage containers, okay, just so that everybody knows. What I am for, and I do understand, Bill, what you're saying, it doesn't seem like much has been done. But I do think, at least this is my opinion, we give them one more shot, we give them the extension, and then that's it. And if we don't have something, then everything must be removed. I mean, at this point, removing those storage containers, I feel, is gonna be more detrimental to the area, because there's nothing there now to block it. There's no Jersey barriers, there's nothing if they take those storage containers away. That's why I feel, at least in my opinion, just leave it to the next extension, give him that time, and then that's it, period. If it's nothing done, they're gone.
Elsa?
Yes, thank you.
Counselor?
Thank you. My question is, have you looked into how states like New Hampshire, how they have highways that are cut into the sides of mountains, that it's as high as this, that they're not having rock falls, or if they do, it's being minimized, how it's being stopped, other than storage containers, because there's no storage containers on the side of the highways. So that might be something to look into.
Yeah, I think it's the existing conditions. Most of those were well engineered to not cause rockfall. They're at an angle. They were well designed for that case. This was an old quarry. It was left very rough. There's some areas that are overhanging. I do wish that back when this was converted into a business park, maybe there was some work to be done to mitigate the risk. But really, it was left very rough and yeah, as it was as a board.
Has everybody waited? Okay. So, so it's very clear, sir. It sounds like people want to give you an extension, so that's great. I think we should talk about how long that extension is. I think it should be shorter than what we're looking at, but we can discuss. Second, is it clear to you, sir, that you will not come back to this council with any idea that involves those storage containers?
Yeah.
That's very clear, you understand that, Gordon, that's on the record, everybody heard it? Okay. So in terms of the extension, I guess I'll look to the counselor. What kind of extension, given what you've seen so far, do you think is reasonable?
I'm uncomfortable giving them 6 more months because of the history of what's happened here.
I agree.
I would be comfortable giving them 3 months and come back with something. Come back with a 2A option. I'll come back with something, but to give them 6 more months, and if we're sitting in the same exact spot, to your point, you can't just remove these things. There needs to be something else there.
Right.
So I would be in favor of a 3-month add-on here, because I know that you mentioned you need to go to other boards and different things, but that was for option 1 and 2, which are clearly off the table. So that gives you 3 months to come up with different other options that would be acceptable.
Right, with those options, we still would have to go to the Board of Appeals, but I think we can come back within 3 months with the next steps.
I'm also gonna ask the petitioner and Attorney Tarby to give strong consideration to what you heard from Councilor Demers. I think he's on to something, that could maybe solve this relatively quickly. Councilor Viola.
I would actually ask if Councilor Tybee would give us a status update in a month and a half through email rather than coming in.
Does the committee, the special permits committee agree on a number? Is 3 months? Okay.
I'm good
Um,
with 3 months.
So why don't we take a vote and add a condition? If someone can make a motion to that
I'll
effect.
make a motion that we give the petitioner a 3-month,
3 months,
Extension.
90 days?
90 days
Extension.
extension. And to further that, I'll add an amendment that the petitioner's attorney contacts us within a month and a half and gives us a status update as to where they are
With the solution.
with the solution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to
Thank
adjourn.
you.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Call the
Nicely
Committee
done,
on,
everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Committee on
Thank
Public
you.
Safety and Licensing to order. I'm Chairman Ferrillo. On the committee with me, Councilor Papalato, Councilor Campbell, Councilor Demers, and Councilor Toro. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of previous
So
minutes.
moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. There's one matter before us tonight that I'm gonna need some,
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Demaro from the Lions Club is here.
hear from him first. Is that right? Let him go first, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, do I have the right to do this? Do I have the right to, do we have the right to do this?
Yeah, that was part of the ordinance change.
Okay. Ready when you are, Doc.
Ready? So for the Woburn Lions, we raise money for the blind and different charities, and one of the members need to raise money for the Braille Press for the marathon, and he was looking for a fundraiser, and the one we came up with was a charity dog walk. We, actually, the mayor had mentioned that there was a beagle walk, and said maybe you could do something like that. So that's where I got the idea. So the dog walk, we have too many road races. The adults only want to run the race if there's beer, and I don't want to do beer. So it's just so hard to run a road race. So certainly with this event, I've been bitten by a dog. I've had a dog hit with people. I don't want to get anywhere involved with a problem. We don't need any more problems than we have. So, this is the first one. As a lion, we're just volunteers. I'm a dentist. And I don't run parades and monster dashes and taste of springs for a hobby. It's just some of the things we do in our spare time. So, I've taken a lot of, effort to put into this already, but we haven't done it yet. So can I say I have experience? I have experience in running events. So, I've researched what to do and how to limit issues. So the way I'm envisioning the walk, 'cause I don't know if anybody wants some of these.
Sure.
Is it would be more of a rolling.
Very high tech.
Yeah, I just did that.
You need a
A
motion.
rolling registration where.
Make a motion that we receive this map and make it part of the
Second.
record.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yeah, a rolling registration, and then all the vendors would be aiming out of the park. And then we'd have the food for the Lions cooking, and, there's other ways to limit, congregations. But basically, what you get for the $25 is you get to enter the contest, and you get a dog bandana. If you wanna buy a t-shirt, you can buy a t-shirt. So, I'm not the first one to do one of these. I've, copy things and steal things from different people. And, we have like a dog waiver as part of the thing. In terms of the insurances or, other ways to limit things with the dogs, it's basically just a walk-by type of thing. That's how I'm envisioning it. And then you just participate or not participate. The, in terms of the insurance policies, there's different ones that are available, but your homeowners and your apartment insurance covers dog bites of your dog. There's no policy you can buy. Doesn't exist. Try. So we have the 1 million, 2 million with the Lions. We use that for all our events, and that's the first step of the policy process or insurance policy that I would get. In terms of other dog shelter walks, those are the other things that I've copied and try to get my organization going. in terms of having lions monitor the different options of the field, you know, with a loud siren, waters, you know, water spray, different things to prevent any type of incidents. You know, at least probably 40 members would be there at that time. We could make signs. We could, you know, go to an extreme of having cars park on the Lions Park, because it's our park technically, and we could park on there to just block congregation completely. So it would sort of force people to walk through. So, I mean, I've tried to think of any particular way of doing it to try to make it a non-drama to us, people, or anybody else. So, I mean, there are other dog walks that have existed. I guess the Beagle Walk is one. There's been other ones that have been around in Woburn over the years, but has been a while. I mean, COVID killed everything, so.
Mr. Chair. So just a reminder to my colleagues on the council, this is the zoning ordinance change that we did, or the ordinance change that we did regarding liability coverage, and we allowed for the waiver. So this is the inaugural petition for the waiver. I'll be in support of that, being on public safety. I think I'm on public safety, right? Gotta make sure before I'm out of order. It's been a long night. This is exactly why we wanted to do this, so that if it wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach, an organization could come to us and ask for that relief. And I think this being an activity that occurs 99.9% of the time at Horn Pond, I have no problem moving forward with a waiver of the umbrella. So I'll be in support of it.
I'm totally in support of this. One thing I'd only ask is, should we get the city solicitor to weigh in on this, or is that not
We already did the
necessary here?
ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance
covers
change
it?
already
Yep.
covered it, yep.
Okay. I'm
Anybody
good.
else?
Yes, I just want to go on record, Gordon, if I can. As a member of the Public Safety and License Committee, I am a member of the Lions Club and current president of the Woburn Lions Club. As someone that can vote on this topic, I just wanted to make that known. However, this event, I have no direct contribution to. There's no financial gain to myself or the club in any way, but I just wanted to put that on record.
John?
I think it's a great idea. So my biggest concern obviously would be dog bites, but if everybody has their dogs on their leashes, then I think we will be okay. My cute little Chihuahua will be on his, and but I'll have my backpack just in case I have to scoot him and push him in for safety. But yes, no, I'm for it. And,
With the rolling registration too, between 9 and 2.
well, and I thought that too. He won't be coming at 9. He'll come a little bit later when it's quieter.
You let him
But
sleep in?
no, but I think it's really,
take it easy.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it will be a lot of fun. I think it will be successful, so,
Something different.
yeah.
Maybe we could get like the president of the Lions Club to be
Yeah, I'll
like the
make
pooper
a motion
scooper
to
in case there's
suspend
any
the
action.
Second.
Think
All in
about
favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Sabrum?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. People love their dogs.
Yes.
And as Councilor Demers already pointed out, that's an activity that happens down there every single day, night, all the time. So, you know, if people start to bunch up and their dogs aren't getting along, hopefully they'll move on, you know?
Jim Donovan down there.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Talk
I think
about
it's a great
dog
idea.
it will be fun.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the waiver is sent out ought to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.